So our project will be titled, Personal Branding. Can you guys see that? Oh, you can't see it. There you go. Personal Branding / rebranding. Personal branding / rebranding. So why this is kind of a split assignment is our first time Graphic Design 2 students are going to be doing creating a personal brand. Okay, you're going to be branding yourself or a company that you would like to have or like to represent. You can represent a whole bunch of different companies. This is really up to you. You can do like a coffee company. You can do whatever. But we're going to talk about how to set up a logo, how to go about creating logos, and then we're going to go through how to go through different steps of creating a business card, creating merchandise. It's going to be a pretty big, intense project, but I want to make sure I get through it with you guys because I didn't get to do it with my Graphic Design 2 class last quarter, and I was kicking myself. This might, just to give you a heads up, because it's such a big project, this might end up being our last project of the quarter. It's because it's going to take so much time to work through all of it, but we'll see kind of how it goes with your guys' flow of work. I'm obviously not going to give it all to you at once and then say, hey, work on this for the next 4 weeks. We're going to work on little bits at a time. And I don't want to overstress you, so we'll have class time to do our work. But I do want to make sure that we can get through this, okay? The reason it says rebranding. So if you are taking this for the 5 of you that have taken Graphic Design 2 right now for the second time, you've already done a personal logo. You've already done a personal branding project. What you are going to do instead is slightly more difficult. You are going to do a major company rebrand. So what you're going to do as I talk through this is you're going to pick a company that already has a logo, that already has a typeface, that already has things set up, and you are going to do a rebrand of that company. Okay? So that's how you're going to kind of change your mindset. So first year Graphic Design 2 kids, you're focusing on the personal brand. Second year Graphic Design 2 kids, you're going to be focusing on a full rebranding. Okay, so as we do this, and you get that written down in your paper, I'm going to pull up my presentation so we can go through some of the specifics for this. So give me 1 second again, because I have to jump off of, I saw all you guys' projects up. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So as we enter this, I'm going to get into, oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Sorry. Okay, cool. So let me load like this. Present. All right. I'm going to have this slideshow up for us on our class, so you can look through it. There are some video links that we're not going to watch right now because of time, but I would like you to get to them and watch them as we prepare for this next project, especially you redesigning folks in Graphic Design 2, because you haven't seen these ones yet, okay? So in terms of our logos, in terms of creating logos, let me shift this over a little bit. The word logo, the definition is a symbol or small design adopted by an organization to identify its product, uniform, vehicles, or etc. Okay, so we're really trying to figure out how to get an entire organization into one image. There's a couple logos that we're going to talk about. We're going to go over that kind of say, we're using it as an example. They do a really good job of incorporating everything into their one design or are recognizable and doing a good job being recognizable. But we want to make sure that we're approaching this definition as we go through our project. Our graphic design 2 second year kids, you guys in your rebranding are going to be looking at companies that you know of or that you can find and you can find problems with. Okay. So when you do redesigns, a lot of times you're trying to find a problem and trying to fix what that problem is that you are assessing. Okay. Okay. First one, these 2 videos are phenomenal. Like I said, we're not going to go through them right now, but I want you to watch them at some point. Now, a couple different types of logos. First off is word mark. Okay. So as I am a note taker, I'm going to write word mark. And the word mark portion of the project of a logo is a logo that is word recognizable. Okay. So Coca-Cola is definitely considered a word mark logo because it is a functional text that we look at, that we read, that we see. Same thing as Pepsi. Okay, Pepsi is very word mark oriented, but there is a logo or an image associated with it as well. Can someone give us an example, whether by unmuting or by typing, of another word mark focused logo that you can think of? Nike, but Nike, like Pepsi, is really recognizable as its slash. It's swoosh, right? The swoosh. Same thing with Apple. Apple has that Apple logo. Gap, nice. Gap, because Gap is pretty text driven, right? The box with the Gap written in it. A lot of clothing stores are kind of like that. Yes, there we go. Hollister, American Eagle, yes, all of those. They're very text driven.
Also, a lot of grocery stores too, or like stores in general. They're all text driven.
Most definitely. Cool. So this makes sure we're switching our brain a little bit into that mode, which is fantastic. Okay. Now, pictorial logos. Pictorial logos are exactly what I was talking about. We have our Apples, we have our Nikes, we have the companies where they don't necessarily have text. They are represented by an image. Can anybody say, unmute, and tell us why a pictorial logo might be more successful on a world level than a word mark logo?
It catches the eye and it's flashy, and that has no language barrier as well.
Good. Yeah, Elena, Heroes, exactly. Hey, it has no language barriers. I could put an Apple picture like this in a third world country with someone who really doesn't speak English or isn't educated at all. And if they have seen an apple, if they've seen an apple with a bite out of it, they can say, "Ooh, apple." Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily associate with food with a phone or a computer or anything like that, but they can recognize it. Okay, so when we take the language out of it, you kind of are working at a world level now, which is a good approach depending on what your market's going to be. Okay, and then we have abstract iconography. With the abstract iconography, we're looking at things like the Nike swoosh. We're looking at the Adidas 3 stripes. They are icons, but they aren't necessarily representing something recognizable. An Apple logo with that bite out of it is, oh, that is an apple. This is a check mark, right? But it is one of the most recognizable logos in the world because there's no language associated to it, and it is now associated with a company, a product, Nike, shoes, gear, promotions, athletics, whatever. Okay, so that abstract iconography is huge. Another positive about abstract iconography, like you have in Target, like we have in Nike, is you can put it anywhere. You can use it on almost anything. I talk about the University of Oregon because I had the personal experience of playing there and being involved with it. But you got to understand that when you would hurt your ankle and like roll your ankle, a lot of people would put tape over your shoes and your ankle to make sure your ankle was stabilized. We weren't allowed to do that because if you did that, you'd cover up a whole bunch of Nike swishes. And Nike didn't want you covering up their swishes. So they'd have to tape it under the shoe, and it was kind of a funny process, right? But if you think about it, look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Nike swishes in this picture, 7, including the football, on this person alone. Okay? That's branding like crazy, right? Same thing over here. They decide, hey, there's like one of their people, yeah, Camille, for sure. Like if you want to shop at Nike, you have to wear Nike stuff. Well, it's super rude if you show up in Adidas something, they'll kick you out. but like this right here, if this person is a really good football player and this gets put on a magazine cover, well, now that's free advertising. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's Nike switches all over the place. So it's recognizable because it's abstract. It's not an actual thing. Okay. You need to figure out what style of logo you want to end up making. Okay. Okay. So this one, Puma, would this work into wordmark, pictorial, or abstract iconography? The Puma is definitely wordmark. Okay. What if we had just the Puma logo by itself without the word Puma? Would that be pictorial or abstract iconography? Pictorial. Good. Crate and Barrel. This one is definitely just wordmark. There's no icon at all. Pictorial or abstract. Okay. Now, we look at this though. Look at how Crate and Barrel has been changed. This is basically Helvetica, the Helvetica typeface. But the way they made it their own and put their own little spin on it is they took the kerning, which is the space in between the letters, and they got rid of the kerning between the and. So it's Crate and Barrel. It's basically one word. But because the and is like its own little icon, we read it not as one word. We read it as Crate and Barrel. Okay. This one. This would end up being a pictorial, even though it's not an image of something. It is a recognizable text, whether it's in the English language or in another language. So this one would be pictorial, and there's definitely some like flair to the outside of it. Okay. So as we start getting into what you're going to do with your project and how you're going to create your design, one thing to think about is if you are going to use, I would recommend you use a typeface that you like, a typeface that you think represents your brand, your company. Okay. If you're rebranding something, decide if the typeface they use for the company represents the company well. Okay. But you can't just swipe someone's typeface because someone put time and effort into that typeface. And if you use it for a company and that company ends up being huge, you have to pay the person that made that typeface a lot of money. Okay. Nike has done that with, I can't remember what it is now. I think Interstate is the name of the typeface they use for their Nike and a lot of their advertisements. So they paid like the guy's company who made Interstate like millions of dollars, and they have exclusive rights to use Interstate for anything they want now, which is pretty cool. Okay. If you do find a typeface that you like the K and the N right here, you can adjust it and make it your own or put your own original spin on it. So if you look at this, if this were in Illustrator, all you do is you create outlines. So all of these letters have little outlines around them now. And then I select these anchor points and drag it down. Select these anchor points, drag it up. I can connect the letters right here in the middle and then do the same thing here. Drag up, drag down. And now it's like my own personal spin. So make sure you're creating the typeface in a way that you think represents your company well. When we start working through this process, you are going to end up creating a logo. And one of the first steps, once we figure out what logo you're going to go with, you need to make sure that it can function in black and white and white and black. Okay. So this is an off black, obviously it's like a brown, but we see it right here with the white and the black negative space, the darker negative space. And then down here with our positive space being the emptiness, and then the negative space down here. That's why it's really important that we understand the concept of positive negative space from our original Papel Picado that we did, and from our positive negative space logos we did in Graphic Design 1. And now we're going to start putting that into action with our logo brand. Okay. Notice too, we have this nice typeface, Sonic Temple. Oops, come back. And with the Sonic Temple, all they did was they just cut off this little chunk of this C, and now it makes it personal. Makes it apply to this company more than other. Yes.
We can't see the images that you were showing us. We're only seeing your screen, like where the notes are.
Really? What?
Oh, you have him pinned.
Oh, never mind.
Unpin him. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Whew. Okay, thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. So you missed that whole big chunk. Go back and watch the first chunk of the video, and you can see everything that I was going through and showing. So right here with a C, just cut off this little chunk of the bottom of the C. Also, look at how they did this. They wanted to use the word entertainment. Entertainment is a long word, and it's about as long as Sonic Temple. So what they did to make it stretch and fit is they took the size down, and then they increased the kerning, so the spacing between the letters, basically put like a space or two in between each one. And so now it stretches the full length, but it's small. It's still readable, but it's not huge. It doesn't take up a lot of space. Okay. It's a great way to make that text seem very secondary. Okay, here's another variation of that. So what they did was they decided to use the same typeface down on the bottom, but instead they're going to take this image and they're going to kick it over to the right and see if that is more successful. It's important to do things like this because you don't want to make food one way and then stick to that forever. You want to adjust it. You want to play with it. You want to see if you can make it better. You might cook food a certain way. You're like, oh, that recipe didn't work at all. And then you go back to something else. But you want to mess with your logos to see if there's a better way to present it than what you're actually trying to present it as. Okay. Here's another example of a logo, Floodlight Records. They decided to work an actual image of a floodlight into the text itself. So you take your word mark and then you have your pictorial kind of application to it. Again, they had records written out down below and they wanted to spread it out to make it fit there nicer. Some images look more successful dark on white than they do white on dark. So that's important too, is you want to make sure that with your image you're creating, is it going to work on a dark background and a light background? And then there's some other concepts. Maybe this would be a more successful floodlight, okay? The typeface here looks way different to me than the typeface here. This looks more almost athletic, maybe a little more concrete, where this looks almost kind of more indie-like, just because of the curves and the L's and the F's, okay? And this one down here kind of fits this same feel, almost like a comic book brand. So the typeface you end up choosing is super important as well. Okay, look at this change. Siloquent. They decided to take the second half of the word, the U-E-N-T, and make it thinner. And then they took this Q and they spun it and put it up and down like they, instead of being off to the side, they spun it straight up and down. But if it's straight up and down, it looks kind of like a power symbol, like an on-off power switch. So they cut off this little chunk right here, and it still reads as that. If you would have flipped it the other way, it would look almost like a G turned on its side. So they got to make sure they take away from the left side. As you are adjusting your letters, it's really important, and I'll draw this over here. It's really important that you look at what you can and cannot take away from your text. If I have this R and I want to personalize it, make it look a little different, I can't take away this chunk up here. Because if I take away this chunk up there and I go like this, it turns into a K. That's not going to work anatomically. Okay. What if I take away this little extension down here on the bottom? No, that's a P. What if I cut out this middle piece? So like this. Kind of looks like an R, but it still kind of looks like a P a little bit. What if I cut off this middle space right there? That looks like an R. So maybe that one's the one I go with. Make sure that you're trying out what will work and what won't, okay? Oh, come back to me, come back. Okay, what we don't want to do is something like this. And the reason I say that is because I don't want you to just find a clip art of something and being like, oh, I'm going to do a coffee shack. And then you just like copy and paste a coffee bean. And then you write underneath it, like Coffee King. Okay. We want to make sure that we're creating things. Hold on 1 second. So we want to make sure that we're being creative with our pictorial logo that we're using. We're combining things. We're being original. We're making our own representations. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is a great video to watch. This guy's actually based in Portland, and he's a freelance logo designer. All he does is sit at home. Companies contact him and say, hey, I'd like you to make me a logo. He goes, sweet. And he designs the logo and he kicks it out. So he walks through his logo design process from writing it, drawing it out, to building it, to sending it off. Like, it's a fantastic video to watch. So you're going to have to watch this one as well. But I'm going to walk you now through my process, okay? And the process you guys are also going to follow. Okay, first requirement. Let me see if I can you guys see where I'm writing. And this will be our first project. The first part of our project that will be due tomorrow, Wednesday, by the end of the day. Okay? You will need to sketch out. I'll try to make sure I can write this so you can read it. 15 logo ideas. You're going to sketch out 15 logo ideas. And then what you're going to do circle your favorite 5 and then turn it in. Okay. So yes, you are going to be making your own logo. So here's the process. Feel free to write notes if you would like, or just listen and absorb what I'm saying. What I did is I wanted to design a brand that I could use as a designer. My nickname in high school that like hundreds and hundreds of people knew me by and know me by still to this day is Oso. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to use Oso and have Oso Designs. I went online and I kind of looked it up because I was actually making this as a professional thing. So I went online and looked up and see if there's Oso Designs anywhere, and there wasn't. So that was a good step. You won't have to do the same thing. But I decided that that's what I'm going to go with. I liked how OSO is pretty asymmetrical because there's O's on the outside, there's an S in the middle. And so I want to try to mess around with it and see what I could do. So I literally just started spewing things onto my paper. Do not erase. Okay? Make sure you don't erase a logo that you don't like. Erase as you're creating stuff, whatever. But this one up here, or right here, was ugly. I don't like how it turned out. I shouldn't have even put it on my paper. So I put X's through it just to make sure that I'm not looking at that one. But I still want to see it because I want to see what your growth process was. Okay? So this is kind of how my process started. I started off with writing some words. Strong, I wanted to be sleek, I wanted to be simple. It needs to represent me. So how am I going to represent myself? Well, what am I interested in? I'm interested in music, art, sports, my faith, okay, light bulbs, kind of like, hey, ideas, guitar pick. That's kind of a shape that I might be able to use somehow. But if I use a guitar pick, it might end up looking like a music brand. So maybe I don't want to use a guitar pick. So I'm kind of thinking all these things, but I'm writing them down because what's going to happen is you might think, oh gosh, what was that idea? And you forgot it. You got to go back and look at your notes to see what it actually is. Okay. So a whole bunch of notes that I'm writing down. And then I just started sketching things out. So I want to play with negatives. Oh, sorry. First I said guitar. So I drew like the opening of a acoustic guitar. I said, is there any text in there? Is there anything I can use? Nope. Can't really do anything there. Okay. X that idea. So I want to use negative space a lot. So I did just the center of like an OSO. That kind of works, but it's not super readable. It's more like just an S. Okay. Next one. OSO. And I said, maybe if I erase like this negative space line thing out of it, like, I guess kind of looks like a cross, kind of looks like crosshairs. Maybe I flip this over to this side. So I should flip it. Whatever. I'll go with something else. Came here with overlapping OSO. No. Oh, I was thinking light bulb. What if I had like a light bulb and then I had the OSO worked into there? No, that's stupid. That doesn't work. I did an OSO under a tree to show like life. Nah, that's not working either. So I kind of just started jumping around. I eventually kind of sketched out this S. No, sorry, I did this one. I did this O. And I said, maybe if I use a negative space of the O to kind of show the outside of the S, that look kind of like a motorcycle almost. So I don't really like that. Here's this negative space attempt again. The reason why I don't think this one worked is because I didn't have the negative space at the top of the O. Hold on one second, guys. Said maybe this is gonna I have to show more of the top of the O. So I tried like that. Yeah, that kind of works. Now it reads more like an O and an O. I designed this kind of funky looking barrel almost O. And I said, I turn it into an S. Yeah, that kind of worked too. I did these little extensions kind of going back to this thing. So I did this one. I redid this text kind of looking like this. Thought maybe I kind of put these little designs around the outside of it. So what I ended up doing was I circled these 5. I vectored them, and then I ended up liking this one the most. So I went like this, and I vectored it all out. Now, I found online, if you have not looked at this yet, dafont.com. Oh, can't read that, can you? dafont.com. It's a website where you can download free typefaces. Just a disclaimer, if you ever use them professionally, you have to give credit to the people that made the typefaces. But it's kind of like this typeface hoarding room. It's really fun. So I went on dafont.com and I found a typeface that I thought might fit this, especially because of the G and how the D looks. I made this typeface my own, the OSO. But when I typed it out, I didn't like the S. Looks more like a 5. I think my S was better. So what I did to personalize it was I just went O, O, O. And then I came through and I clipped off this section of the S, this section of the S. And then I put an extension across the middle of it. So I made my own S essentially in Illustrator. Okay. I then took an O and I made it slightly larger and I filled it and I made this shape right here. And then I made one a little bit bigger. I made one a little bit bigger. And this actually extended all the way across. And then I took a big circle. I laid it over the top of it and I cut it out. And then I typed out the design. Okay. So this is kind of my final design. Now, what's going to happen with you, and we're not going to go through all the necessary steps right now. This is the only one we're really focusing on until Wednesday. But what's going to happen is you are going to send me your 5 favorites with your 15 overall. And I will respond back to you by Thursday and say, hey, these look really good. I agree with these. I think this is your strongest logo. Okay. Now, as you're trying to figure out what logo is, remember, you need to decide what you're trying to represent. Are you doing Keaton Design? And you're just going to use your name. Are you going to design for a floral company? And it's going to be called Sunlight Floral or something like that. Okay, so you have to figure out first what you're going to be designing for, like I did with my OSO design. Figure out what you're going to be designing for, and then start laying out your sketches. Okay, if you're doing a rebrand, you need to find the company that you want to rebrand, or maybe actually, sorry, you don't need that. You need to find the company, that you want to rebrand, and you need to start sketching out logo ideas of how you're going to make it better. Okay, same thing here. I want 15, and you're going to give me your 5 best. Again, this is a lot harder than doing your own, because if you're going to take a logo like Starbucks that's super established, it's been around forever, you're going to have to put a lot of work to try to make that look more successful. Okay, so you'll sketch out your 15 ideas, circle your 5, and then I will say, hey, this is the one to run with. It looks great. Okay, let's see. Number 2. You will vector the top choice. Okay, so once we look at all of them, this is later in the week, we will then go to the step of vectoring your top choice. So it will be on Illustrator. You'll vector your top choice in Illustrator. And then you will turn it in black and white. So your file that I'll show you later, will have a black on white version, and it'll have a white on black version. So we got to make sure that it works well in both ways. Now, as you look at my example that I have here for you, one thing that we see is that when you have black shapes, dark shapes with light spaces in between, that spacing kind of stands out a lot. But when I flip it, when I have a white space with darkness in between it, these white shapes, light shapes, end up to kind of glow a little bit, and it makes these spaces look really tiny. So that's why we want to make sure we flip it as we go, okay? So I would recommend, as you're working on your project, you have it over here, you're working on it in black, and then have a black box over here so I can copy it in white and put it on it and make sure it still works. If it doesn't work, then I can come back and I can adjust something. Copy and paste it, see if it works, and kind of go back and forth. But you will eventually turn in one black on white, white on black. Okay? The third step, you will add colors and label Pantones. Again, just write it. Keep this paper. You're just going to write this down, but we're going to come back to what all this means later. And as I play with my color, this was my process. It's like, oh, okay, I want to use this kind of like dark, like royal blue almost, just because I like it, okay? So I went like this. Oh, that looks cool. Maybe I can add it here. What if I go to the design? Nah, I kind of like that, but I liked having these two words separate. I like the oso being a different color to the design. Ooh, what if I do this? And I take this negative space and I wrap it all the way through to the design. Now it kind of takes this down even more. Is this still readable? It looks kind of cool. But if I'm going to make this change because of the color, what do I need to do? I need to make sure it works in black, and I make sure it works in white. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to say, okay, this is my new design now. Does it work white on black? Yeah, that actually works pretty cool. I like that. And then that ends up being something I can go with. At that point, you can kind of play around with it. You can adjust. And we're going to end up going to, after we get our colors and our labels and our Pantones, number 4 is you're going to have to create business cards and letterhead. Create business cards and letterhead because you're designing for a company. So you're going to have to make something that looks presentable. And the final thing is add your logo to 3 promotion pieces. Okay. Now, your rebranding, the rebranding folks, you sketch out your 15 different variations of how you want to adjust the company logo that you're working on. You're going to circle your 5. We're going to talk back and forth and figure out the one you're actually going to use. Okay. Turn it in black and white. The colors. This is how your second year folks are going to adjust the colors. You are either going to utilize the current color Pantones from the company. So if you're doing Starbucks, you're going to do white and green. Or you are going to make the conscious decision as a designer to totally rebrand the colors. I have a company that is supposed to be really like really high-tech, new-aged company, and they have a lot of browns and greens in their company, and I want to make it like oranges and blues, make it really bright, really flashy. So you're going to have to tell me if you're going to keep your Pantones or you're going to adjust your Pantones, okay? And then you're going to start putting your new promotion pieces together, featuring this new logo rebrand that you have done. Okay. Yes, most definitely, Oliver. I will have the steps typed out. I'll have that posted on it, along with this, this on the video, and it'll be in the Google Classroom. Totally. Again, though, we're only going to turn this in. We're going to turn this in chunks. So it's not like you're going to have to do all of this right now. Again, right now we are working on this, just this top part. Okay. This is how the chunks will work. This will be the first chunk. Vectoring it will take a while. That'll be the second one. Then we will add our colors and stuff. That'll be really fast. And then the final one, I'll have a lesson where I'm teaching. So I'm going to talk to you about this. It'll be done. I'm going to talk to you about some vectoring stuff. We'll do that one. Talk to you about how to do this really quickly. We'll do that one. And then I'll reteach you a lesson on how to do this one too. So there's really 4 chunks this is going to be broken up into. Okay. And then at the end, this is an assignment. We'll just do a show and tell to show off our work and go over what we've been working on and putting all our effort into. Okay. To finish up my project, I just kind of played around with it, and I took my wordmark logo that I had that had the pictorial, and I tried to see if I can find an abstract iconography logo out of it. So I was kind of playing around with this image. Looking at that, okay, it looks kind of cool. It looks kind of like an S. What if I flipped it and made it like this? That works cool too. Maybe this will be my new abstract iconographic logo. Okay, so that's kind of the process. What we're going to do is for the rest of the class, you get a couple minutes, and all day tomorrow, you are going to start working on laying out ideas. Okay, hopefully you have something kind of brewing in your head right now. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell because I can't see all your faces. But hopefully this is going to be something you're really interested in. In terms of the people who are doing the rebrand, I would like you to maybe send me an email of some of the companies you're thinking about messing with. I kind of want to give you freedom to do it on your own, but I don't want to just kind of hang you out to dry. So feel free to send me emails, say, hey, I'm thinking about these companies. What would you think? Or you can just get your one company and start rebranding that one. Okay.